Let me just start off by saying that you are a true Star Wars fan if you've ever had your giant sausagey fingers smashed by a plastic lightsaber, or even your giant watermelon head. If you've ever had that happen, you probably grew up playing some pretty epic lightsaber duels, but there was always somebody that ended up crying in the end because they're pretty intense. Just throwing it out there, I do believe that lightsaber duels should be added to the Olympic event. Breakdancing was added at the last Olympics, and it would be an absolute crime against humanity for Jedi lightsaber dueling to not be added. Okay, you heard it here first. I'm the first one that's throwing it out there. Anyways, all jokes aside, let's get straight into today's video. I actually wanted to talk about something, well, that is pretty apparent, but Disneyland is getting extremely expensive. This has been happening over the past couple of years, and I think most of us have kind of brushed it off as like, well, it's inflation, things of that nature. But if you really stop and sit down and do the math, which we're not very good at, but if we actually sit down and do a little bit of calculating, we'll notice that there are some ways to maybe cut corners here and there, but for the most part, Disneyland is getting absolutely expensive now. And just to give you guys an idea of how expensive, I actually took some screenshots of the calendar, and you essentially have the last couple of weeks leading up to Halloween going for about $190 to $200, depending on whether you're going Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. That's not something that we saw pretty commonly. Usually it was like the week of or the week before Halloween, but to see those prices, it's definitely a very daunting sight. If you take a look at the week of Thanksgiving, which is essentially the last week of November, you'll notice a little bit of a trend. You're looking at about $206 for that final week, and even the final like 2 to 3 weeks leading up to Thanksgiving, those weekends are going for about like $180 to $190. Christmas is probably the worst. You have essentially like the last 2 weeks of December leading up to the first week of January. All of those days, especially like the weekends or headed into the weekends, you're paying about $190 to $200. There are some days in between here and there during the week where you can get in for a little bit less, but the prices just continue to increase. Now, it is worth mentioning that there are ways to kind of shave off some of those costs. For example, if you just want the aura, if you just want the experience of the holiday season, as I mentioned previously, you can either visit the park well before the actual holiday, or you can take a visit during the week. Usually if it's like a Tuesday or Wednesday, you can get in for relatively less money. For example, all of August, or I should say later August, early September, there are days during the week when you can still get in for about $100 to $120 during the week, which I think is probably your best option if you're looking to save a little bit of money. Yes, you do have to take maybe like an extra day off of work or something along those lines, but I think in the end, it's worth it. Also, avoid the price hopper. Usually you're paying about $60 to $70 for the opportunity to be able to visit both parks within the same day, but that just makes absolutely no sense to me. You can kick in the extra like $30 to $40 and have an entire extra day at the Disney parks. On the other hand, you pay an extra $60 or $70 just to be able to split your entire day amongst two different parks. I know some people may be constricted in time. Some people may not want to pay the extra day at a hotel room, but I just think the value of the park hopper is it kind of saves you some time. But I just don't know how much real enjoyment you can get out of visiting the theme park in that way. My mentality is actually pretty similar when it comes down to the lightning passes, just because I just don't see the value in those either. You can get on some rides a little bit quicker. There are particular attractions that don't have lightning passes available, which means you have to stand in the line with everybody else. I personally feel that your main objective should just be to enjoy the park itself. I don't think that you should go there with an objective of riding like a certain amount of attractions or exploring every single corner of the theme park, because I don't think that's a very realistic objective, especially in like a 1 day window. If you're going there multiple days, I guess you can kind of splurge a little bit, but if you're just going the 1 day, it just makes absolutely no sense to spend on extra things that you can easily plan for. There are certain rides that you can hit immediately as the theme park is opening, and that's assuming that you rope drop the theme park. But if you plan accordingly, if you know which rides tend to have longer wait times, then you usually hit those up. If you also don't care for before like the parades, for example, that's another great window to actually get on some of these rides, because usually the attractions seem to have much smaller wait times during that time period. So if you're willing to skip, events like that, you'll be able to get on way more rides. Not to mention, you can consistently be checking the Disney app to verify which rides and attractions have the least amount of wait time. And I believe I already mentioned this, but it is worth reiterating. The festivities don't start on the day of or the week before. It's usually about a month before. For example, for Halloween, you can experience the aura, the atmosphere, the decorations way before the actual Halloween date. So you can usually start seeing a lot of decorations popping up, but the actual celebration starts about like late August and lasts all the way up until like the first week of November. So you have plenty of time to visit the park if you want the full Halloween experience without actually having to visit the park on the most expensive week. And this actually applies to any major holiday. Same thing with like the Christmas festivities. If you don't want to pay the extra amount within like that 2-week time frame, and you also want to avoid crowds, they actually start decorating the park usually about like a month before the actual date. So there's definitely a large time frame where you can go in there and actually enjoy the park during that time frame without paying the extra markup and dealing with the gigantic crowds. I should also mention to avoid any of like the Disney vacation packages. I know usually it can be pretty tempting to just reserve everything through them, like any of the parking passes, which obviously you're gonna have to purchase regardless, but sometimes they'll have packages that include the hotel room as well as a park reservation, and I would usually avoid anything to do with those type of packages. Usually you're paying quite a bit of a markup for the hotel. Obviously, if it's a hotel that's on Disney property, that's a completely different conversation because it's themed, and so the markup definitely makes sense. But sometimes it's a hotel within the vicinity. I think you're better off just reserving the hotel yourself through like Booking or hotels.com. They usually have a decent selection of affordable hotel reservations, especially as I said at the beginning of the video, if you're going during the week, like a Tuesday, Wednesday, even a Thursday, you can usually get quite a bit of a discount compared to going through the weekends, which usually you're going to pay about like a $40 to $50 markup. So I know on the surface, it may not seem like a crazy amount of money. You're thinking you just pay a couple of extra bucks here and there for like the park hopper feature or a lightning lane pass, or paying the extra just to be there on the weekends. But it adds up, it's $30, $40, $50 here and there. And then by the time you know it, just for that particular weekend, you could be paying, if it's just you and your significant other, you could be easily overpaying about like $300 to $400, including the lightning lane passes, the park hopper feature, as well as the extra amount that you're going to have to pay for your hotel reservations. That's not even accounting for the amount of money that you're going to spend inside the park. It feels like you're going to have to sell one of your kidneys just to be able to buy like a t-shirt in there. Some of these shirts go for as high as like $70 to $80. A slice of pizza can be like $20 depending on where it is that you're purchasing it. So I think the best idea or the best game plan that you can have here is to try to spend as little as you possibly can upfront to fully enjoy the experience on the inside, because you will be buying some merch, you will be tasting all of the delicious flavors that Disneyland has to offer. But all in all, guys, yes, Disneyland is getting extremely expensive. You're having to spend potentially hundreds, maybe even thousands of dollars just to get through the front gate. But I think there are ways to kind of cushion the blow a little bit, save a little bit of money here and there, cut some corners, and just enjoy a nice day at the park. Because to be brutally honest with you guys, there was a time when I felt like Disneyland was a little bit over bloated, it was overrated. But the more and more that I visit the park, or I should say my first couple of visits were absolutely magical. I think there is something special about being able to experience all of these rides, all of these attractions. If you grew up a Disney kid, you're definitely going to feel the nostalgia kind of pulling you back to those good old days where you were munching on disgusting pizza rolls and Lunchables and just watching a good old Disney movie. So look, there you guys have it. I just wanted to kind of recap a few things I think that could potentially help you in the long run when it comes down to just enjoying a good day at Disneyland. Yes, it is extremely expensive. Yes, it is incredibly hectic, and it can get very tense. but I think in the end, it'll all be worth it. You'll get to just kind of forget your worries at the door, and don't worry about it when you get back home. You can always just, get another job or sell a kidney. But then again, your kidneys are probably worthless at this point because you drink a lot of beer. I don't know. I don't know what to say to you guys. Anyways, all jokes aside, thank you guys so much for tuning in. I do want to start uploading on this particular channel. I want to kind of vary it. I'm going to try to keep everything like theme park related. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it just as much as I enjoyed putting it together for you guys. Let me know your thoughts down below. Have you visited Disneyland recently? How expensive was it? Do you regret it? If you could do it again, would you not go? Let me know down below in the comment section. What are some really cool tricks and tips that you guys can offer us to saving a little bit of cheddar when visiting the most magical place on planet Earth? Let me know down below. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Stay safe. We are going to be uploading more consistently, so definitely stay tuned. I'm going to try to upload at least like 2 to 3 times on a weekly basis. Hopefully I can keep up with you guys. Stay safe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you.